The following script is an open focus training exercise. Before we start, please sit up in your chair with your hands resting in your lap, and if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. You will be asked to imagine feeling sensations and their absence. Imagining is like pretending. Don't try hard, just let your imagination do all the work. Space is like air in the room. There is space all around you, in front of you, behind you, to the left of you, to the right of you, above and below you. Space is also inside you, even though it doesn't seem that way. So when I ask you to let yourself feel space inside and outside your body, just do the best you can. It's like imagining you're a balloon and you can feel the space inside and outside at the same time. It is easier to feel space when your eyes are closed. Let yourself feel the space in that part of your body mentioned in the exercise as best you can without trying. I will let 10 seconds go by before asking you what it would feel like to feel another space in your body. Now let's move into the first exercise called General Space Exercise. Can you imagine feeling comfortable in a chair? Can you imagine feeling the space in the whole room you are in? Can you imagine feeling the presence of your thumbs? Can you imagine feeling your thumbs more clearly if you move them slowly? Can you imagine feeling the presence of your index fingers? Can you imagine feeling the presence of your thumbs and index fingers simultaneously? Can you imagine feeling the space around your thumb and index fingers? Can you imagine feeling the space they occupy? Can you imagine feeling the continuity of the space through your fingers? Can you imagine feeling the space between the thumb and the index finger of each hand? Can you imagine feeling the space these fingers are moving through very slowly? Can you imagine feeling the space between these fingers as they widen and narrow? Can you imagine feeling the sense of presence of your remaining fingers? Can you imagine feeling the space around and between them? Adjust your posture, inhale through your nose, and imagine the space inside of your throat. Can you imagine that space expanding until it occupies the entire region of your neck? Can you imagine as you inhale the space inside your nose? Can you imagine the distance between your eyes? Can you imagine your breath going behind and around your eyes? Can you imagine the space between your eyes? Can you imagine the distance in space from your eyelids to your eyebrows? Can you imagine the space inside your ears? Can you imagine the space inside your throat and the space inside your ears? Can you imagine the distance between your ears? Can you imagine the distance between the tip of your chin and the middle of your forehead? Can you imagine the distance between your temples? Can you imagine the distance between the tip of your chin and your temples? Can you imagine the distance between your temples? Can you imagine the distance between the tip of your chin and your cheekbones? Can you imagine the distance and space between the tip of your chin and your ears? Can you imagine the distance and space between the tip of your chin and your eyes? Can you imagine the distance between the tip of your chin and your lower lip? Is it possible to imagine the entire surface of your tongue, the top, the sides, and the bottom? Can you imagine the entire volume of your tongue? Is it possible to imagine the surface of your teeth and gums? Can you imagine the volume of your lips? Can you imagine the distance between your upper lip and the base of your nose? Can you imagine the distance between your nostrils? Is it possible to imagine the space inside your nose as you breathe in naturally? Can you imagine the volume of your eyelids? Can you imagine the distance and space between the bridge of your nose and your eyes? Can you imagine the distance between the bridge of your nose and your forehead? Can you imagine the volume of your entire jaw? Can you imagine the volume of your whole face, eyes, nose, lips, chin, and ears? Is it possible for you to imagine the volume of your entire scalp? Can you imagine the distance between your eyes and the back of your neck? Can you imagine the tip of your chin and the top of your head? Can you imagine the distance between your shoulders? Can you imagine the distance between your eyes and the space inside your throat? Can you imagine the volume of your upper arms? Can you imagine the space inside the joints in your elbows, wrists, and fingers? Can you imagine the volume of your thumbs? Can you imagine the volume of your index fingers? Can you imagine the space between your thumbs and index fingers? Can you imagine the volume of your middle fingers? Can you imagine the volume of space between your index and middle fingers? Can you imagine the volume of your ring fingers? Can you imagine the space that exists between your middle fingers and ring fingers? Can you imagine the volume of your little fingers? Can you imagine the space between your ring fingers and little fingers? Can you imagine the space that exists between all of your fingers? Can you imagine the space between your arms? As you breathe in naturally, imagine the space that exists inside your body. Can you imagine the space that exists in front of you, behind you, to the left and right of you? Can you imagine that space that exists above and below you? Can you imagine that space that exists inside of you, merging with the space around you? Can you imagine existing in this space whenever you want? Can you imagine bathing in that space? Can you imagine feeling your whole body filled with space? Take a few moments, scan your body, actually listen to your body, searching your body, observing your body, relaxing in its space. And when you are ready, open your eyes and enjoy the feeling of peace of mind. Thank you.